You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Graceland After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Graceland After Show.
Welcome to AFTERBUZZ Graceland, episode 10, King's Castle, Bing is for doing, and we are doing another episode here tonight. I'm Julie Partin.
My name is Stephanie Georgie.
I am Stephen Lemieux.
And this is our fantastic special guest, Colin Walker.
Woo! All right.
You may recognize him from The Butler and Treme, where he plays an FBI agent. He also happens to be a huge fan of our series, so we're stoked to have him in the house tonight.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here and talking about the great show.
So how'd you become a fan?
You know what? I'm always a fan of cop shows, new cop shows, and a friend of mine is engaged to one of the executive producers. So I had TiVo'd a couple of episodes and just got hooked after the first couple episodes.
That's pretty much what everybody says.
Exactly.
Mind blown, this show's crazy. So much action happens in every episode.
Well, and also each cop is a bad guy. It's like they're all bad guys and cops all rolled into one.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I look from like what was it that dragged you in for the pilot? Was it the ending? Because I always say like the ending of the pilot was the one like that's where they're getting everyone back. He's investigating Briggs. Ha.
Well, yeah, because even though like we talked about, Mike is a sort of a classic hero. In a way, he's sort of a bad guy because in a way he's even betraying everybody in the house because he's undercover. So that each of the characters kind of did it for me. Also, the fact that it's a bunch of cops on the beach surfing. How bad can that be?
Right.
Well,
Reminds me of something from the 80s.
Right.
we start out the episode with a little bit of a story that I thought was going to develop into a plot, but it was really just a warning, I think. They were talking about another cop that they knew, Klein, who, in self-defense, killed a perpetrator, but since he was on pain pills, is spending the rest of his life in jail.
So they really like to justify everything Briggs does, and if Briggs doesn't say it himself, they have to justify it in another way, and this is just another way of them doing storytelling in Briggs's mind why he's doing what he's doing. Because he could say, oh, I killed Jangles, oh, I killed this, but at the same time, he was under the effect of alcohol, he wasn't in his right mind, and he killed a man, which would completely ruin his career.
Yeah, and so we see the scene on the beach. We go right back there immediately, which I was thankful that they didn't draw it out. And Briggs takes the mask off. So for the first time, he's finally seeing this guy's face, and he says, "You're just a dude.
Regular guy, yeah.
You're just a face. Nothing scary under there. No Phantom of the Opera up in this house."
Yeah.
Oh, you're just a face. All right, let me let you in my car. Let me drive out, dig a hole.
We'll get you a nice little spot.
It's cool.
So you guys think he really thought he killed Jangles because he seemed so anticlimactic about it?
Yeah, I mean, he seemed relieved. Truthfully, because Jangles was the boogeyman. He was the chupacabra. He was like
The big bad.
Exactly, and that's so he pulls off the mask, and it's like, oh, you're just another guy. But I also like that, because there's always this gray area about Briggs, whether he's really good or really bad. But after he accidentally killed the who he thought was Jangles, he did roll him up in a bag and put him in his thing and go bury him in the desert.
Yeah.
Which is clearly a bad guy move.
It is, absolutely, and that's the
Right.
first thing that got me. It broke my heart to see that because I had some level of respect for Briggs. I'm like, well, maybe we're gonna find out something else. But once you do that, I mean, you have no respect for that person for what you're doing. And
But it's just like the concept behind the show, like Dexter, where he works in it, so he knows the steps to take to prevent being found out about it.
Yeah, he's not just going to drag the body out to the ocean.
I want to throw a point out here, though, because some people who are commenting on our YouTube videos and iTunes and things are saying that before, they're like, okay, Briggs is doing all this selling the heroin, getting at the Casa Cartel, just to lure Jangles out to kill Jangles. Okay, if he was doing all this, it would have been more of a revelation and more of a enormous weight off his shoulders once he had killed Jangles.
That's true. I thought
And
that
nothing changed,
after he thought he was going to kill Jangles, the whole Odin thing would be up. I thought the Odin thing was try to lure Jangles.
Well, even then, I would assume that Briggs would have more of a, like, after shooting Jangles and finding out, oh, you're just some guy, you'd think he'd say something like, not so tough now. Like, he'd be more accusatory. He'd be more like, yeah, you did all this to me. You put me on heroin. You ruined my life, and I just killed you. But he seems so indifferent by the fact that he's dead that I don't know if it's just that he didn't think he was Jangles when he killed him.
No, I have a feeling that that's it, because maybe he just feels like everything's unfinished right now.
But
See, I think it's what you talked about, that first scene, because they show it's a year and a half earlier, and they're setting up that, and he even says, if you're loaded, it's murder. If you're not, you're a hero. So I
Yeah.
think after he kills Jangles, the first thing he does is he sees the bottle.
course,
And
yeah.
so he can't really, I think part of it is he can't celebrate, because if he gets, like, he can't bring him in and say, look, I killed Jangles, because he was loaded.
He
So,
probably wished it had happened differently.
yeah.
He wished he wasn't drunk. He was going to get a medal. Everybody would recognize all of his hard work.
But here's my point, is that either way, he just killed the guy that everyone commenting is assuming that is the whole reason he became Odin to lure out.
Right.
Right.
So that's where I'm like, well, everybody's wrong, because there is a bigger conspiracy going on here as to why Briggs became Odin and is going against the cartel. It's more than revenge at this point.
I definitely thought
I
it was.
agree with you
I
on
thought
that
it was
point,
revenge.
yeah.
He did not drop it. He kept up with his evil Odin ways this entire episode.
But all he was doing was covering his tracks as Odin. He wasn't starting new stuff as Odin. All he was doing was trying to take
Yeah,
Charlie
to
off
eliminate
his
it,
track,
right.
I mean, did
You're
he do
right.
anything new as Odin?
He didn't do any new drug deals. I guess I can't get past my mind what happened in the prison. So we should jump into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, into Mike and Bo.
Odin's dead though. Odin's done. He gave away all his heroin to Bello.
So Odin will not do drug deals anymore.
Yeah, so I think he was using. I mean, it's such
It'll
a
be
weird
interesting, yeah.
situation to see how they play it out. But Briggs was going. He lured out Jangles through Bello, which seems like it was his end goal. But Bello is still around, and if Briggs wanted Bello dead, he could probably have Bello dead.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering why Bello is still around and how he's playing to Briggs's needs right now.
Right.
Well, Bello's in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And still very much in control of himself.
Yes.
We were so
He's
impressed.
such a boss. He was.
He's getting interrogated by Charlie. At first, 2 agents, which he completely schooled.
Yes.
He wants a deal.
So Charlie gets
And nothing
frustrated.
less.
Get
They're
out.
like, we could protect you in jail. We could set you up with a suite in jail. And he's like, what if I want to avoid jail altogether? And Charlie's like, you two, out.
Yeah, which ruins everything. And I had a feeling too. I don't know why she decided to go in there. Sometimes it gets me mad when they kind of involve themselves in the other cases because of like what happens later. Why wouldn't you think of that? And it's so frustrating. So she interrogates him, and then sure enough.
Yeah, she should have kept her cover for sure.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah,
she
but
thought,
she's clearly on the warpath.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
She thought those guys were not doing good enough a job, and she could get the job done.
Of course, and I get that she's a badass, if you will, and everything else. But at the same time, just think about it, especially if it's not done. If it's not done, then there's plenty of things that have to keep going.
Well, she didn't get very far with him either.
Exactly.
No.
I have to disagree with you on that. And in the way that she's not going into other people's cases and she's not going where she's not wanted. Her original case, I mean, she's been wanting to bring down Bello from the start, and her case was to get at Odin. And she did the undercover. She's already done with that. They took Odin into custody, and now it's her job to try to get the information out of him because that's her case. It's Briggs and her on this case. They brought Mike into it.
Right.
So it's originally her and Briggs's case. She's not stepping on any toes being a part of this. And after they brought Bello in, she has a right to be the one to interrogate him.
Well, but even so, if she's still so much a part of it, she shouldn't have been in there interrogating him because it's her case. She's involved.
Yeah, they were just saying
just a
like
bad decision.
she could have kept her undercover.
Yeah.
And let the other guys do the dirty work face to face with him.
Yeah, that was also, though, before they sent Mike back into prison. Because
Right.
they
Yeah.
thought Mike's cover was blown and that was all done, that was
Right.
no longer going to be a thing.
So Mike comes stumbling out of his room. He left the hospital against the doctor's orders. He's bleeding everywhere. He has this
Yeah. Oh,
nasty
poor
wound with a
Mike.
little tiny bit of gauze over it. And they all say, wow, didn't know you were back home so soon.
Right.
Paige rude as ever. We were getting a lot of flack online for Paige hate. And it's not always Paige hate. It was Paige betrayal last week that was really painful. She kicked Mike while he was down. She basically kicked that nasty wound with her foot.
She pulled a bellow and punched him in the knife.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna coin that phrase. If you punch someone where they've been stabbed,
Yeah.
you're pulling a bellow.
Pulling a bellow.
But we see that Mike, not better, and yet Charlie, rabid dog, wants to send him back into prison. She thinks that's the thing that could get Bello to talk.
Well, she's willing to go after Bello at any cost, and therefore through Bello find Odin. I mean, she's trying to avenge
She's trying to avenge Whistler.
Whistler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at this point, it doesn't seem like she wants Bello at all. It really seems like she's only.
Well, because she's caught up with
She just
being
wants
Briggs.
Odin.
So now it's messing with her head, of course. Honestly, I think it was a great. Sorry to interrupt. I think it was a great idea to send Mike in because you saw Bello was relieved to see him at first, and he was talking. He definitely could have gotten something out of Bello if it hadn't been for Briggs calling up and making the appointment.
It's never good to be suspicious of people you live with.
Yeah.
It really is. I've had 7 apartments since I moved to LA. Trust me.
Oh, gosh.
It's a terrible feeling to be like, I gotta hide this. Gotta make sure that I seal it a certain way and put it in the fridge. Oh, I know you touched it. I mean, it's.
I know you ate my Yoplait.
Exactly. So I can understand why you'd be a little bit driven crazy by, he might be selling heroin to the cartel or to Bella. So it's understandable that Charlie's going really crazy. This episode kind of culminates everything that's been off kilter with everyone since the start of the season.
Definitely.
We see it in Briggs, we see it in Johnny, we see it in Charlie, we see it in freaking Mike, for God's sakes. He's actually spilling the beans to a lot of people. I mean, everything's slowly coming together, and we have 2 episodes left.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Briggs, talking about the whole episode and everybody's arc, I think Briggs, for the first time, you see a couple of clearly really bad moves. I mean, he not only rolls up a body, but then later he sabotages Mike. He makes the call to put
Well, for a minute
Bello in the room.
It seemed like he was the voice of reason. Don't send Mike. He's not healthy yet. But like Stephen pointed out, he is one step ahead of them constantly on trying to keep them away from Odin. That's the only. We don't even know if he
he's
cared about Mike
definitely
at
he's
all.
a master schemer.
Yeah.
And
he's
why
putting it
wouldn't
all
he be
together.
protecting himself? I mean, everything that Briggs is doing with reason at this point in regards to him taking care of, looking out for his own self. But, oh man, it's just too frustrating.
I was with him though, even though I didn't realize he was lying at first. I'm like, Mike, no, Mike, go back to the hospital. You shouldn't even be home right now.
I love that we could call out the chemistry with Paige and Mike. We're like, they're gonna think he slept with her. And then of course, right on it, Johnny.
He's like, you dirty dog.
Yeah. So Mike goes into prison. Orange is the new black. He gets hooked up. And Bella, like you said, was really glad to see him. Like my friend, my buddy, us.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this scene for a second because it's really an interesting dynamic between Bello and Mike here, in that Mike is always a follower to Bello. Bello is the one in control, and Mike is always the one a step behind because that's his role as the bodyguard. In this one, Bello knows how much Mike has on him. I mean, even then though, Bello is like, this is my friend. Eddie's gone. This is the only friend I have. Bello's the follower in this scene, and Mike's the one in control. And this is the very first time we actually really see that. And I actually wanted to see more of this dynamic. And of course, we see what happens next. But even then, I wonder where they're going to take Mike and Bello's storyline, because I don't think that's the last we see of them together in a scene.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, at the end of the episode, they're sitting together. Why did Bello call him, and why does Mike go back in?
Exactly.
I think it's interesting. It opens the door to finding out what happens next. Because who's to say that Bello doesn't lead Mike to Odin, Briggs as Odin? I mean, maybe that's where they're headed with it. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, it's good. Even no matter how much, how undercover you are, I'm sure there's some level of friendship there. Even if he hates him, even if he can't stand him.
Once you spend time with someone, of course.
Yeah, there's still that level of familiarity. So I could see Bello being the kind of person that would kind of, and of course he knows how to play people. Bello is the one to play people. So
Right.
using Mike to kind of better himself in the prison, using what he knows about Odin with Mike, it's going to be brilliant. I think that's what they're going to go into next season, because I said it before, I really think Bello is a second season character.
Really?
I think.
Really?
I think,
I'm wondering, you know,
I
I
don't
think
know.
Bello knows now, though, that Odin is FBI also.
probably.
Yeah,
might.
after everything that happened,
He's
I think that's what the
probably-
meeting was for. Like I think he's now, again, Bello, we all knows what he's doing. I think he's now creating something else. That's why they're meeting. I mean, it didn't show it in that episode, but after seeing Charlie and Mike together, and he knows that Mike knows Briggs or Odin. Or
I could
however it
see
is.
that. I could see him
Why wouldn't he
thinking
think
back
that? Why
through
wouldn't he
everybody.
think that anyone else involved with Mike
he would know.
is FBI?
You're right.
So something else is gonna happen. That's why he met up with him, because he left. He calmed down. He's sitting in the cell. What do you think he's doing? Nothing but thinking and thinking and thinking, because he got played. So now he has to go back to the very beginning and retrace absolutely everything. And he's probably wondering why, knowing that Odin is FBI and at the same time a bad cop.
Yeah. Let's
He's
talk
putting the
about-
pieces together.
Let's talk
Right.
about that crazy scene where Bello found out that Mike was a Fed, because that was gut-wrenching in more ways
Yeah,
than
well,
one.
you know, it was interesting. I was just thinking about that. Why didn't Charlie was like standing there screaming, "Get him off him! Get him!" Like, why didn't she just dive in?
Yeah.
I wanted her to dive in.
So Charlie went to visit Mike.
Right.
Briggs, in my opinion, one of the most evil things he's done yet this season, calls
up
in and
calls.
schedules a meeting with. We learn a lot of things about Bello. Jeremiah Bello is his name, and
Yeah.
apparently he has,
Has
a wife and kids.
Kids, yeah.
And he didn't seem concerned about them 1 minute this entire series, nor tonight.
Well, even
Well, you
when they
can't be.
say we'll keep your wife and kids safe, he says, "Oh, they're fine.
Yeah, I know, right? Isn't
Yeah.
that funny?
They're protected."
He thought he was secure last episode, and he was
Right.
not very
I know.
secure.
Right.
I gotta point out something though, because every other episode we can justify what Briggs is doing as for a greater good.
Right.
And this is the first episode
Yes,
where he's
it's just
doing
bad.
things that
Just for
are
his own.
just to protect himself.
He risked Mike's life because they're talking. Bello sees him. You're a Fed. Walks up. Like Stephen says, punches him right in the open
Pulls a
wound.
bello.
Yeah.
Pulls a bello.
Pulls a
He could have
bellow.
bled out right there. And yet
Yeah.
Charlie was weenie
Yeah.
in that moment. Stop! Get off him!
I know, that made me so mad, because if I would have knocked Bello out like right away. I mean, now that he knew, bam,
Maybe it was
Why
just all happening so fast.
right?
Yeah, and you know that's I mean, one of the great things about all these characters is that they travel in morally gray area, ethically gray, and this is the first time where it's absolutely clear that what Briggs is doing is just for himself.
That's black. It's evil. There's nothing gray about that.
Right.
But I didn't see this coming. I thought Mike was going to be undercover with Bello for a while. I thought we would see him in prison. I thought that would develop as a story. This came early in the episode, and it's a big shock.
I know.
Well, I think what I just realized too is the great thing about the greater good again with Briggs is Jangles is still out there, and he's dealing with Charlie, which is terrible because now we have Charlie who's in danger, which we like, Briggs who's putting other people in danger to cover who he is as Odin, but there's no one else who can lure Jangles away and save Charlie but Odin. So Briggs is going to have to reassume the role of Odin to lure Jangles out again.
That's true.
Right.
That's
So-
definitely true. We didn't get a lot of new information concerning the drug case because there wasn't any more new information to have. Bello's
Right.
in jail. Odin's gone MIA.
Well, the other interesting thing I think about Odin bringing that up is, you know, Jangles is after Odin in a way. You know, the FBI Federale, the real Jangles, and going through. At the end, we see Charlie bringing, and it's interesting that Charlie doesn't reveal. I mean, do you think that she's thinking it's Briggs,
Yes,
but she just doesn't?
absolutely.
She's
Of
not
course.
sure that she trusts him yet.
It's
Right.
just in case. Yeah.
Do you know how much was on the line with what she just said? With if she told him?
Yeah. I think there's
He was-
definitely that moment.
He was the one. I mean, I'm watching this and I'm like, if she tells him, he will burn down Graceland like he did the estate, and everyone in it will die.
Right.
That's how much your word weighs right now, Charlie.
Right.
So, I mean, this is you got to imagine. This is the guy who killed the 5 agents. This is the guy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess I didn't realize it before that she was sitting across from the person who had killed the 5 agents.
Yeah. No, she doesn't know that.
Exactly.
No.
She just thinks she's on, but clearly she's not entirely sure that she trusts him, Because if she did 100% trust him, she
Should
would
have
have
said Paul Briggs.
Exactly.
I think she hasn't quite admitted it to herself. I think she doesn't want it to be Briggs.
Of course.
I think
They're all
she doesn't
frustrated
know.
with that.
She
because
doesn't
it's
know
just-
100% in her gut. She's not going to risk his life for that.
Right.
Oh, definitely. And I don't know. I don't know if she got anything from his reaction with the fire detector or the smoke alarm. Fire detector. Oh man, I
Didn't
love
even
it.
notice it was wrong.
Yeah, I didn't know if I don't know if she noticed something in his facial expression which led her to give less information or not. I think we'll find out if she has any doubts about Cortez in the future. And I'm sure she'll have some justified doubts about him by the finale.
Yes.
Right.
But let's actually go to that scene with Mike and Bello now. The last scene where we see them sitting, because we just talked about how he calls him and wants to speak with him. This was super powerful. And I loved it because Bello is so put together. And I like how he keeps character. He's like a steel balloon. He's being filled up with pressure, and only a little bit will escape, and then he holds himself back.
How is that guy still looking that gorgeous in jail? He doesn't have
beautiful.
his silk tie.
He is,
doesn't have
absolutely.
his matching kerchief. And yet
He's got
still
blood, and he still looks
right.
good.
Hey, orange is a good color on the man. What do you want to do?
He hides his emotions so well as a character.
He's a boss. That's
I don't
why he
think
got
he
to the
has
place that he's
emotions.
at.
He does.
Of course.
When have we seen him have emotions?
We see emotions today.
Well, that day
see
when he
him.
jumped out at him, when he charged at Mike.
My favorite part
Yeah.
was when he said, "I trusted you," because that
Yeah.
just goes
Yeah.
to show you that from the beginning he did. That relationship was completely and utterly built. In between.
That's true. I guess
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking of anger emotions because those are evident with him. I haven't seen any type of remorse or compassion in that character.
And I think that's the point of his reaction, was to see that it was real, that the relationship between them was real, and then we finally found out that no, he had no idea.
His anger comes out so seldomly. It only came out when he found out he was an FBI agent,
Yeah.
and it only comes out when he talks about Eddie. And I think that's the reason. That's his remorse coming out through
Yeah,
anger
of
about
course.
when he talks of Eddie. And Eddie was the only. We came from wherever together. He was the only friend I had, and
Yeah,
greatest
but-
line,
yeah.
amazing line. I didn't kill him. He was a human sacrifice at the altar of your sacred badge.
But I feel like Bello is so evil, he won't even take responsibility for that. That's his fault. It is not Mike's fault that Eddie shot himself. Bello burned his best friend's eye out.
No, I
Yeah,
think
no, you're absolutely right. Bello is clearly a bad guy, without a doubt. But what I think that does also is it puts Mike in more of that gray area, because I think Mike doubts often what he does. You know, Mike probably does feel guilty a little bit about Eddie's death, and then he also, you know, obviously questions whether investigating Briggs is the right thing. I mean, we see, and we'll talk about that later, that he, you know, admits that he's doing it. So I think that kind of statement puts Mike in a gray area.
Well, with what Bello said, it kind of applies. The writers are really good with this. They like to throw in lines that apply to the other things that are happening with the other characters.
Sort of like House.
Yeah, and this one was the difference between you and me. The difference between you and me, Michael.
Wow, your accent's way better than mine.
I will pay for my sins.
that's funny.
And
That's good.
If you think of
It
that,
is.
Bello's in jail. He's paying for his sins, but the sins of Michael in the house and the sins of Michael spying on somebody he lives with. And we see, of course, this relates to Johnny. You may say that we're just 6 people living together, but we're a family. This is spying on a family member. So I love how a lot of the lines that are very powerfully delivered are going into the other aspects of the story. Even human sacrifice at the altar of your sacred badge. Dale Jakes, his family is a human sacrifice at the altar of his sacred badge. Whistler was a sacrifice at the altar of Charlie's sacred badge.
He's manipulating him.
Yeah,
of
everything
course,
applies.
but
And
it
when he
doesn't
says,
matter.
I will pay for my sins, that's the difference between you and me. He's guilting him on the level of manipulating him, and he's guilting Mike in every other thing that he's done wrong, especially because Bello, I think at this point, kind of knows that Mike is kind of faulty, especially with Eddie. The fact that he blames Eddie's death on Bello.
Yeah.
He says he sees Eddie when he goes to sleep at night.
Yeah.
So he obviously should have tried harder to take care of his best friend, jerk. That guy is so evil.
But you got to be careful. I mean, this is a man that would kill a man sooner than have a 1% risk of him getting caught.
Yeah. We have
Well,
to look
and
out
he's
for number
also
one.
it's looking out for number one, but it's also that code. I mean, he loves the westerns. Bello loves his westerns, and there's the whole code around it. So I think it's
Definitely.
as much that as
Death
well as
before
he's
honor, man. Like it's just.
And
It is what it is.
I gotta say, it makes me fear because Bello and Briggs's character, they are similar in ways more than you would think. And if you think Briggs wouldn't put Mike's life in danger to save his own ass, then you got another thing
He
coming.
did. He
Well, he
did
did,
today.
yes, but
Yeah.
Maybe not as blatant as it could have been.
I just
but-
think that everything should be understood. I kind of want Mike to grow some Paige balls. Like, I love Paige. Yeah. I love it. No, because Paige from, like, the get-go has, like, it's one of the, we're here for a job. It's a job. Or even Johnny, for that matter, because he doesn't let it get to his head, but it's better because when you just relax when you can, you just, you cannot let the emotion get involved. Just like when people say it's not personal, it's business. Same thing. And that's why it's, I'm thinking about this person. I'm thinking about this person. Well,
Yeah, but Paige got in trouble early in the season with the guy who got shot in the first episode, right? Her partner, right?
No, that was a different girl.
That was,
it's only because we saw her once.
That
Paige
was
wasn't even
Lauren.
introduced yet.
Paige wasn't even
Lauren
in the
and
first episode.
So
Donnie.
Paige hasn't
right.
been.
I'm sorry.
Paige has not been the
Switched
gun from the
female
whole time.
characters from the
Yes.
pilot to the rest of the series.
Oh,
That was
that's
just
right.
that was created so that the room was available for Mike.
Yeah,
Definitely,
that's right.
And so they needed another female character. I could tell between the first episode and the second, they're like, we need some Mike, Andy. What are we gonna do about this, people?
Yeah, they have a job to do. They do it well. Mike kind of is skidding on it. But you have a job to do as the viewer, and that's going to
There you go.
iTunes,
Nice.
typing in AFTERBUZZ Graceland, and giving us a nice 5-star rating. Or, I mean, you can give less, but we wouldn't like that. We might pull a bellow on you. So definitely give us a 5-star rating. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think of our after show. Any improvements you'd like to make. Any comments you want us to know about. Predictions or anything. Also, swing by our YouTube page, give that a thumbs up, and write your comments because we love reading them. We like figuring out where everyone else is at so we can decide if we are feeling bad because you're smarter than us.
I have seen some opinions of our YouTube commenters and our iTunes commenters. I'm like, they're so right.
Oh, I know.
How
The other
did
day,
none of us
this
see
girl.
this?
Yeah, that's so funny. I know. I love that too, because especially when it's something that I don't think of, I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Well,
Right.
one of our YouTube commenters suggested that the relationship between Juan and the friend that used to be Briggs' partners was romantic in nature. They weren't
That's an
brothers, they
interesting
weren't
look, yeah.
friends, but that's what one of them suggested, like once in a lifetime type thing.
Lover.
And I don't know if we'll get to find out just because Juan's dead now, the partner's dead now, and Briggs had never met Juan, so of course he wouldn't know if he was a significant other or a brother or
Well,
anything.
that's a good point. It
this is
brings
all
us
getting
to
so twisted.
So Mike, after leaving the hospital before he should, going to prison, getting sucker punched right in the wound, is back at home, just needs to rest, this poor guy, and he gets called in by his FBI boss.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I want to point out that when Mike gets home after being sucker punched by Bello, like that's when Charlie sets off on her, like, I got to find out who made this call.
Charlie's obsessed.
Because
Oh, yeah.
Charlie knows it was
Yeah.
Odin because the guy didn't show up to meet Bello.
Right.
So Charlie
Right.
knows it's Odin that made that call to get Bello into the meeting room when they two are there.
And it's your typical rat. It's like she smells a rat because there's no way Odin's that good.
She
You
didn't
know, because if it isn't Briggs, if it isn't somebody at the house, it's somebody letting them know because they're good. I mean, our government
One
isn't
step
that
ahead
dumb.
of us.
She's getting so much closer this episode because before it was I know that Briggs is connected to Bello in some way, but now
To Bello or Odin?
to
Odin.
To Odin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Briggs is connected to Odin in some way, and now this episode we have the meeting between Bello and. Meeting between her and Mike, and Bella walks in. Now she knows it's an agent because only an agency official would know about that, the timings for that meeting, for those meetings.
Right.
And this is where she really is starting to think it's Briggs.
And Briggs wants her to drop it. She's like,
and he's
you
pushing
won't
harder.
even help.
Right.
Yeah.
Why aren't you working as hard as me?
He's
Right.
working against himself though, because she's just
It
becoming
is
more and more suspicious.
of course. And I loved that she sat there and was like. And when she said something, what did she do? Flip the page like, nope, I'm going to keep going and catch her ass. Excuse me.
And he says, I'll help you tomorrow.
I know.
Mañana.
Okay, it's all right.
Okay, now let's. What was?
So Mike gets called in, and the rest of the people in the house are like, "Whoa, getting your props, took down Big Bello," and that's what Mike's preparing for, to get a medal or accolades of some sort. Instead, he walks in. We see this FBI agent we've never seen before.
Yes, new guy.
He's older and stiffer than most of the agents we've seen, even the superiors. And he's like, "I wish I was here to give you a medal. Not at all."
No.
Slides over across the table.
A 9-year-old, lovely
guilt-inducing. It's a
Nice job.
Yeah, it's a childhood picture that had been
Right.
drawn, talking about why Mike wanted to be an FBI agent so bad.
Gotta
When I
love
grow up-
professional guilt.
I know, right? How did they have that?
What kid
Well,
signs his name
you know what,
MW?
but you know what was so good about that also was to show like kind of what the whole point is. It's almost like a motivator too. Just remember, no matter what's going on, like let's bring it back to its innocence and to why you would want to be, which is good. Which I feel like everybody who's in the FBI at one point probably felt that way. You know, wanted to protect, and then it's just one of those things where you get involved, and then you're like, oh, it's not really what it is. Like the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And so now this guy is kind of smart because he's like, let's go about it the other way. Since he's so sentimental, feels good about his grandpa. It's another, I think. Apparently, everyone knows they can manipulate Mike, so they're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and I think it also continues to push Mike into that gray area. You know, like, are you a good guy? Are you a bad guy? You know, he shows him the thing like,
Check yourself.
which one are you? You know, you came here to be an FBI agent, and your job is to investigate Paul Briggs.
And Juan, in his recent reports, had been saying that Mike was not showing respect to his authority.
Right.
He was going against, well, I knew that was going to happen with this pen. Going
Don't know your own
against
strength.
what he was saying. And so Mike's in hot water here.
Yeah.
They're like, are you good and are you bad? And what we need you to find out is Briggs good and is Briggs bad?
Yeah.
Because Mike had drawn a little good boy, bad boy on there.
Well, I also think it's interesting you brought up, Stephen, about, you know, is there going to be higher ups now that Juan is dead, that maybe there are higher ups in the FBI that are pushing the investigation into Briggs, and there's a larger conspiracy at work. And is this guy part of it, or, you know?
You know how I know that that they're going that route is the fact that the agent that gave Mike the drawing knew about the heroin. He knew that Briggs was a recovering heroin addict.
So it wasn't just Juan going crazy.
It wasn't
being
just
suspicious.
Juan
Yeah.
that sent Mike out to do this. It was Juan, and it got authorization from higher ups. And that's how they're going to burn notice it, basically, with the story arc.
Briggs, you're blacklisted.
Yeah.
When you're a spy. We got about 8 minutes to get through this.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because we gotta get to Colin Walker.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well,
Okay, yeah. So that's all that.
well, basically, the old stiff FBI agent says Juan's missing. We need you to find out if Briggs had anything to do with it.
Yep, and the same story hasn't stopped, so we'll see what happens.
Well, Mike goes back to the house and tells Paige everything that happened, and shocker of the night, tells Briggs.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting move on his part.
I was screaming, "Don't do it, Mike! Don't do it, Mike! Briggs is evil."
Well, and I think it's interesting. He talks on the beach later about why he did it, because he wants to see the look on his face
Yes,
when he says
exactly.
Juan Padillo. So even though he's coming clean, I don't think he's completely off the case. I
Yeah.
think he's still trying to find out the truth, if only for himself or for the FBI.
Right, of course.
Yeah, and then we do see when Briggs looks it up, his face.
Yeah.
He's shocked. This guy, if he was Jangles, is an FBI agent.
Yeah.
And Briggs probably feels terrible.
Well,
yeah, he
unless
feels.
he thinks it's still Jangles, then
No, he won't think it's still Jangles.
No, he realizes he screwed up.
Yeah.
He was investigating him on tape. The real Jangles would have just, no.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting how they pull that up, and having Dale know about the tape, we see that in the previews. Unless there's another tape, the writers like to do that again. Dale is investigating parrots, and they're on tape. The parrots are on tape saying something. I mean, I don't know. There could be another tape that Dale's talking about, and that's always how they pull it. But I want to get in the house.
Yeah, everything is awry in the house. While this was an incredibly fun episode, the dynamics blew up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we see from the start, Johnny throws a crazy party for Jake's every year.
The King's Castle.
So funny. Bounce house.
Right.
Bounce house inside.
And strippers. What?
And if any of you viewers like the Man Show,
I
that's
know,
what
go
we're
ahead.
talking about.
Hadn't seen it, wasn't in on the joke. But Jake's walks in. He's like, "What are you guys planning? What are you guys planning?" He knows this is a
Right,
reoccurring
yes.
thing every year. I think it's hysterical. I want
I think
somebody
it is too. I loved it.
I'm gonna throw Stephen a secret surprise party every year.
Yeah,
No,
Although I bet he would not be
invited.
right.
So, Spark Notes rushing through this. Mike's trying to, Johnny's trying to set up stuff. He comes up with strippers in a bounce house. Dale sneaks into his room, cancels the
Floored it.
bounce house. Johnny's one step ahead of him, gets it, of course. And then they have the party, and Dale doesn't show up. And this is where we're left with Johnny,
Well, the
strippers.
party was really funny. The
Yeah.
bounce house is inside. The strippers are jumping inside. Nobody's playing along. Nobody's
Yeah.
having fun. Poor Johnny. I know. Johnny's loving every second of it. Charlie won't stop working. Mike not there.
I can't imagine filming this scene and like having so much fun doing. Like the group's probably like
Yeah,
laughing his
no, that
ass
was
off.
so hilarious.
Yeah.
All of it was so hilarious.
No way. Just having been in scenes, those strippers were tired by the end of that.
Yes,
scene.
they certainly were.
You know, they're standing back there like,
Do we have to bounce again?
they're like, cut, we need more smiles.
We need Johnny to stare more. Can we do another take? I loved how Johnny was just
That was so,
zoned out.
he does it so good.
I'm
I
getting
love
my
all those,
soul
like, little,
prepared.
Johnny this was his funniest episode. He's
Yeah,
always
he was
hilarious. He's on a
killing me.
roll.
So,
So
Johnny,
he said,
Line after
when I
line.
used to braid your hair.
Remember when you used to braid your hair?
so Johnny sets this party up. Nobody's really into it. They all got other things on their mind. Charlie's really trying to dig up these phone records. Not a part of it at all. Briggs finally convinces her, but not really. She just takes a knife and destroys the King's Castle.
King's Castle.
He's like,
Just
You
keep
know-
bouncing. Just keep bouncing.
Oh my gosh.
You know, what's interesting about Johnny is that character is one of the most morally clear
Yes,
characters in the whole show.
absolutely.
You know, because he is truly good, and he puts on the face really well, but he's morally good. He talks about family in this show. You know, he's talking to the mother stripper. You know, about his childhood
Yeah.
and
well,
everything
I
else.
didn't
but-
think he was. Whenever he first slept with that crazy hippie drug dealer,
yeah.
I was
No,
like, I
that
don't
was
know
just-
if he's good or
What are you
not.
talking about? That was
Really?
just the man in him, of
Yeah,
course.
he was just having
He was just trying to
fun.
get booty.
It seemed morally corrupt.
Oh, he's like, hey, if I'm gonna do it, kill two.
Julie-
What is it? Kill two birds with one stone.
let me just say this. Even cops some of them think the war on drugs and the whole marijuana thing is kind of a joke. So I mean,
Not those cops.
Johnny, his
He does seem like
Not the
somebody.
ones who are
if he weren't a
investigating.
cop, he would get
his
high.
logic behind sleeping with her is like, dude, she sells weed. Like, really? I mean, come on.
No, but
He's
she was a
also
freak. That was the point.
You know, he just wants to get laid.
Yeah, of
Seriously,
course.
so-
That's all that
Under
was.
the excuse of, I'm undercover.
Either way, yes, Johnny is the peacemaker in the house.
Yes,
It
certainly.
reminds
I
me of
love
my
that, and it's
position in it.
refreshing. It
Yeah.
really is refreshing every time he says that. And it was, I loved it when that scene with Jake's gets frustrated and he announces all that, because it's good. Everyone needed to hear that. Like, relax, and
So-
no one is.
We gotta
So
keep going. So
Jake's not showing up to his own party, such a stick in the mud all the time. Goes to the bar, he hangs out with his ex-wife's new boyfriend, who's
Right.
currently raising his son.
It was awesome, by the way. Derek is super cool.
Yeah, Derek is. He finds out they're in hot water. Derek's not going home tonight. He's giving his lady some space.
And immediately Jake's is like,
Yep.
back in.
I
Hey, you
know.
gotta do what you gotta
Drunk
do.
Jake's 3 a.m. thinks he's gonna go win his ex-wife back over after 7 years of being missing in action, and it goes
And drunk.
terribly wrong.
I don't know
it
why.
couldn't have gone worse.
Because he was drinking and he had that liquid courage.
I don't
That's
know.
why.
3 a.m. drunk, it doesn't work.
man.
It's just not romantic to her.
And you know what sucks too is that Cassandra said, or Cassie, whatever her name is, she said, "Don't ever come back ever."
Yeah.
So now
Don't make
I'm
me do
wondering,
this,
yeah, that sucks. Ah,
Mm-hmm.
shit.
That was heartbreaking. So he goes back to the house,
Yeah.
immediately sees Johnny.
Bam.
Johnny
Nice.
surprise.
Boom.
Boom. Worst friend. He wins the second worst friend of this episode award. Next to Briggs,
Briggs,
getting Mike
yes.
almost
Gets
killed.
I want you to put yourself in Dale's position for a second, though. Just think about it, because I know people that associate certain days with
Yeah, of
with
course.
happy memories, and it just makes them sadder.
Yes.
And Dale, I can imagine having his family, like his birthday, and having his family there to celebrate it with him. and then now having his birthday and not.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's really got to hurt, and having people try to be there when he really doesn't care about these people that much.
Of course.
It's just kind of a false. He feels it's a false affection.
And Dale doesn't have to explain himself either. To like when he says, "Don't throw me a birthday party," he's kind of hoping like, "Please just respect my wishes. I don't have to tell you it's because I lost my wife and son."
Johnny's doing it a little bit for the affection of Jake's, but also a lot for a
So
joke
you just get
and
everyone
because
to
he's
relax.
having a blast.
Yeah.
Well, and he even says after the fight, I'm doing it for everybody.
Yeah, for all of
the
us.
house,
He does.
You know?
Oh man.
So they get into a big scuffle. I thought it was
does.
going to get more intense. There was a lot of yelling.
It was, but it was. I'm sorry, it was super hot. It was so hot. Johnny was so cute with that. Bam! Well, because I never saw him that mad. That was like the most serious.
I was surprised he got up and talked back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
that was
great.
cool. Yeah.
They spread apart. They're all in their own areas of the house. Johnny gives the house a reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? This is our day job.
Yeah.
We need this. And you're all robbing it from each other.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to point this out about Johnny, and they show it to us last episode, which I think is great, especially before this one. Johnny is the so lax guy. Like, he's always just trying to get laid, all that, things like that. But then we go back to last episode where we meet Violetta, and Johnny really, like, wanted something with Violetta. But he can't because of his job. And that just clues us in a little bit that Johnny, somewhere in him, has something somewhat against Graceland and how it's secluding him away with only these people. And this just kind of releases it like, look, this is the only 6 people who we can be ourselves with. Like, this is a family. I don't care what you say. I don't care that we're not related. We live together and we die for each other. Like, this is a family. If
And
that's
he has
not,
a point. Yeah.
I know. Can't we all just get along?
Well, I like to
We're the only friends we're allowed to have.
He's just trying to make the point that you don't have to take it to heart. You don't have to like claim me as your blood brother. But they truly are whatever they have, and they are gonna fall apart if they don't look out for each other. That's the whole point of them being honest. That's the whole point of the house, is so that they survive and so that they do a better job at their jobs.
and isn't Johnny's dad not a part of the equation growing up, right? He had...
Well, he talks about my mom had to take care of the 4 of us. And
Yeah,
everything
so
else,
that's even more. Like, you got to be out for each other. You're a family. Like, and that even throws it out more. His character didn't have a father growing up, and that's like, you got to look out for each other even more.
Absolutely.
right.
So
And I think they all hear him and they all realize it, but there's so much else going on.
Yeah,
there's
it's all
so
the
much
animosity in the
mistrust.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
frustrating.
can they be family with each other when they can't trust the intentions?
Yep.
Yeah.
well, we'll get into predictions in a minute, but I got to say, we have Colin Walker, who is a fantastic actor. He's he's an agent. I don't know, are you an FBI agent?
I am Special Agent Jim Collington.
On
Interesting.
How funny, right?
On David Simon's Treme, the HBO show.
And you've
yep.
also just premiered in The Butler as I can never pronounce the last name. I don't know why it's
Lee Daniels, the butler.
no, your character's last name.
Oh, John Ehrlichman.
Ehrlichman.
Yeah.
Because I
that is
read it and I'm like,
complicated.
it looks
Yes.
like it's something different.
Yes, because there's a CH in the middle. Yeah.
Liechtenstein.
Yeah.
So how has it been?
Liechtenstein.
How has it been having a part in such an iconic movie for this year? Because this is a lot of people are saying it's one of the best movies of 2013, and with some of the other competition out there this year, that's a huge compliment.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. You know, it's really exciting to be in the #1 movie last weekend, and it looks like it could have a really strong performance this weekend. And you know, I think it's an important movie. I think the pedigree of talent of everybody involved is just such an honor to be on that cast list with all of the people involved from top to bottom. And it's exciting to be in a movie with this much excitement around it. Certainly.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You were talking a little bit before. Sorry, you were talking a little bit before about how it's a wig movie.
Yeah, it is. I was joking. It's the hairpiece movie. I actually have a comb over in the movie, and now I'm really grateful that comb overs are no longer in style.
That's too funny.
Yeah, so my wig was literally, it was just glued to the side of my head, and then and we were shooting and we'd take a break and I'd go, oh, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and I'd look in the mirror and who's that guy?
Yeah, right,
You know,
I bet. Oh,
it was
that's
scary. So and a few friends of mine are in it and they all have, you know, hair pieces, and I think Oprah goes through like generations of hair pieces.
Well, that's pretty much much Oprah's every day.
That's true. That is very true. Yeah. So
She's like, I need new eyelash hair pieces. I need new eyebrow hair pieces.
I was gonna ask, what is it like to play an agent and then be a fan of a show like kind
Yeah,
of
what's it like
involving-
to play a cop?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I've played everything from a prison guard on Days of Our Lives all the way through, like, you know, Ehrlichman in this movie is a White House chief of counsel. I've been every version of a cop there is, like Show Me the Drugs and everything else. It's you know, I mean, I'm just glad there are a lot of cops on TV.
Yeah.
Definitely. So how do you get in the frame of mind to be a cop? Do you know cops? Just from are you
No.
basing it off of other cop characters on
Well,
TV?
I like to joke that I spent so many years of my youth running away from them. I know what they look like. No, you know, it's all about authority. It's all about authority, and I think the haircut does a lot for it too. But you know, playing a Fed on a show as iconic as Treme, working with, you know, David Simon created The Wire, which is one of the, you know, most amazing cop shows, cops and robbers, if you will, with so many great characters. So it's been so much fun to do more than just kind of the typical, you know, pull them over and arrest them or something like that. So it's fun to see because in our show in Treme, we talked about this with this show, is like the twists and turns in this one episode take us an entire season because there are a lot of other characters and storylines in our show that aren't just cop related. So it's fun for me to watch a show like Graceland that's so well written and so much because it engages you so much, wondering like what's going to happen. I mean, all four of us were glued to the what's going to happen next week because you really wonder. So I love watching other cop shows because I think they're exciting, entertainment.
It definitely whets your appetite every episode. You're
Yes.
not disappointed by what happens. It was there's not any setup or character development episodes.
Right,
Just like
yes.
plots and stories.
Yeah.
So, what kind of preparation do you have to do to prepare for your character in The Butler as a real life person who existed before? How much study did you do into the person's life before you portrayed them?
You know, interestingly, the first thing I did was go to Wikipedia and then use that as a looked at the picture. Oh, I guess I do look a little like him with a hairpiece, and then go into, you know, who he was historically. And interestingly, this script was written by Danny Strong, who wrote Game Change. He's, you know, won an Emmy for that, which was a story about Sarah Palin and for HBO. And he's just such a great writer. And all of the stuff, even in our, you know, one of our 4-page scenes, there was so much historical fact that we were talking about that it was a history lesson. And I'm originally from New Orleans, and we're talking about the change of the South. The South used to be staunchly Democratic. And during the Nixon administration, one of the things they did was they changed. Nixon uses civil rights as sort of a ploy to get more votes. And he switched it, and now the South is staunchly Republican. And so it's interesting as a Southerner to have to learn all of that historical, and then also to know who this character was. I mean, people of my parents' generation, when I say I'm playing Ehrlichman, they all know Ehrlichman as a bad guy because he was really involved in Watergate with Nixon and everything else. So it was interesting to have to look into who he was. But you know, when it all came down to it, it was just the three of us in a room talking and telling this story.
So did you have I haven't yet seen The Butler.
Right.
And I'm sure I will go see it after speaking with you. Do you have any
Yeah, me
scenes?
too.
Do you have any scenes with Oprah or Forrest Whitaker?
I don't. I have a couple scenes with John Cusack, and John Cusack plays Nixon. I play Ehrlichman, and Alex Manette plays Haldeman. We are his two key advisors. And Forrest is the butler, and he comes in and serves us. But interestingly, he's a silent witness. The character is a
Which is
silent
what I
witness.
love about that. Yeah, that's the one thing that I know about this movie.
Yeah, he's a
which is
silent
incredible.
witness to all of the most important civil rights decisions from, you know, the 50s through the 80s. And so my interactions with Forrest were minimal. I mean, it was wonderful to be on set with him, but our characters didn't interact. So
how was the passion on set? With the directing, with everything down to the acting? What was your experience with working with such a prestigious amount of people, a prestigious class of people in the film industry.
It was great. I thought, I know John Cusack had only come in for a couple of days to do this smaller role for him as Nixon, but he was so well prepared, and everybody was so well prepared. I mean, Cusack was saying, "Oh, here, do you want my, Nixon biography to look through some of this stuff? It's in my trailer." And, everybody was really welcoming and really great, but everybody was really concerned with making this the best they could. And in fact, it was interesting because we had Lee Daniels, the director, had it set up one way, and when we came in, the research, actually all three of us had done, John, Alex, and myself, all of the pictures of Nixon and his advisors were sitting around the desk. And so we were all kind of saying, well, they're always at the desk talking and writing and stuff. And so Lee said, okay, well, let's change it. And so they kind of took everything apart, and we moved over to the desk and put it all together there. So, it was just great that everybody was there doing the best they could to put together this piece of work.
Nice.
Yeah.
And acting is all about experiences. The more you've experienced in your life, the better you can portray different things that you're going to go into with what role you're given. And through this role, where do you feel your next project should be? Like, what's the next role that you'd love to do after experiencing something like this, already doing a time period piece and being such a political piece, and one of a very, I keep saying the word prestigious, but through its opinions and through how it's affecting people seeing it, prestigious films?
Yeah, I think I always look at, it's interesting, we talked earlier about so many anti-heroes on television now, and I know you're done with all the anti-heroes.
Seriously, are there no good people left?
Well, we live in a gray world.
Does every main character have to be a murderer?
No, but I mean, you look at someone like Bryan Cranston on Breaking Bad, or you look at, not a lot of people saw it, but Kelsey Grammer on the Star show Boss was just amazing. And I think we live in an era now where you can do a 10 or 12 episode season on cable of some really great characters. And a show like Graceland has such an ensemble cast to play such a great character. Like, I would love to do something political important like a show like Boss, where Kelsey Grammer plays the mayor of Chicago.
Maybe like House of Cards. Although that has all anti-heroes. There's not a good person on that show.
Really? You don't think
Not
so?
one.
Unfortunately, I think it's just identifying with everyone else more. I think it's just what's more real, the hero or the anti-hero. Unfortunately,
I don't know. Whenever Lost was going on, I liked Jack more than Sawyer. Give me a real
what was going
hero.
on?
Lost.
Well, we're running a little bit over, but is there anything we can see you in the future, aside from definitely go, everyone listening?
How can we support
Go to
you?
the Butler.
The Butler.
Yeah.
The Butler is out, and then Treme starts December 1st.
Awesome.
So, and I got a couple other things in the works, but they'll be further on.
And where can we
Nice.
find you on Twitter to follow you for social media?
Everything is under thecolinwalker.com. So it's
TheColinWalker.com.
thecolinwalker.com, at Twitter at thecolinwalker, Facebook at thecolinwalker.
Okay.
Well,
There
I'd
you
love to
go.
hear some of your predictions for Graceland.
Let's get into it. Predictions.
Predictions.
They're setting up for the next show. Don't worry. I'm going to say ladies first.
Okay, all right. So,
Well
predictions.
played.
We didn't get a lot of future information about the next few episodes. We got 2 more, and we know that it's a 2-part season finale. My first prediction off the bat, Briggs said, "No, Mike, I'm not going to help you find the car. It would look like a cover-up." Yes, Briggs is going to try to find the car.
Of course he is. Well,
That is like going to be his big scramble.
Oh, it's not a scramble at all. He knows exactly where it is.
He knows exactly.
He knows exactly where he was. He knows where he killed Jangles, and I mean, it's a cop car.
I think the scramble is going to be to try to get rid of the evidence.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
of course.
To
Yeah,
try
yeah.
to fix that situation. I think before the end of the season that Paige and Mike are going to hook up in some way.
you
Yeah.
think?
I do think that maybe Jake sees his son. Wow, I can't believe there's only 2 episodes left. So much
I know,
stuff's going to
that's so
happen.
nuts.
And I think that, yeah, it's going to come down to, this is a bold prediction, okay? I think it's going to come down to Briggs giving up himself as Odin to save Charlie's life from Jangles.
I think that Bello's gonna help them get Odin.
You think Bella's not done?
I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna let them know.
One. I think we're gonna see Abby like a ransom of some sort.
Very good, team.
Yeah.
Go, go, go.
Okay, no, that's I don't know. That's it. Go.
You go.
I think Jangles finds out that Briggs is Odin.
I think Julie has a good point with Briggs might give up himself as Odin to get Jangles, but I think it's going to be in front of Jangles and Charlie.
Yes.
And I definitely think that Abby's coming back for a little scene. And
Definitely.
let's also say that either Mike and Paige hook up or they kill Paige. So I got to keep up with the Paige
Sex or
guys.
death, right?
We will be off next week, but the following week we will see you for part 1 of the season finale with
Joe
Dill
Henderson.
Jakes in the studio right
Yes.
here.
Brandon's coming back.
Executive producer Joe Henderson.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be
Where can we
fantastic.
find you, Julie?
I'm Julie Partin. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook at JuliePartin.
And I'm Stephanie Georgie. You can find me at Stephanie Georgie, Giorgi.
And I'm Stephen Lemieux. You can find me at Stephen Lemieux. And be sure to go see The Butler in theater.
In theory and in reality.
Definitely follow our guest Colin Walker on Twitter and social media. Thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thanks for having me.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.